Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the next major version of iOS. Of course, we're talking about iOS 13. Every time the new year starts, there's always one question in my mind. How would Apple improve upon the previous version of iOS with the next major release? And this year, without a doubt, of course, Apple will be releasing iOS 13, and it's very promising because last year Apple released iOS 12 and it was aimed at stability and performance enhancements to make devices run smoother, and they've done a really good job at that. They stayed on top of everything. But this year, iOS 13 aims to change the UI for the iPhone forever. Now, this hasn't happened in a very, very, very long time. Ever since the original iPhone, we can pretty much say we have the same style, the grid app layout, and if it isn't broken, why fix it, right? But it's a new era. There's time for a change, and this year is very promising for iOS. And I want to talk about some of the features that I wish come to the software and some of the rumors that are anticipated for iOS 13. Let's begin. So the first thing I want to talk about is expected release date for iOS 13. Now, if history is any indication, the fall timeframe is when we expect a major release for iOS. I mean, we've seen iOS 10, iOS 11, and iOS 12 all released in September. So during the fall season, it's when Apple releases the major versions of iOS every year, and this year should be no different with iOS 13 if history is any indication. However, the first beta for iOS 13 will most likely be released from June 1st to June 15th this year. The reason I say that is because of WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference, is usually held between those dates. So we'll most likely see our first glance at iOS 13 Beta 1 anywhere from June 1st to June 15th, as I mentioned, depending on when Apple decides to hold their WWDC, their Worldwide Developers Conference 2019. Now, no one really knows what iOS 13 will look like, but if there's one thing on iOS users' mind is new features, things that we've been asking for quite some time, and I think it's time for Apple to deliver. If we get a new UI, that's going to be awesome. Maybe add some widgets on the home screen, maybe little platters that we can move around instead of just icons, more information, so not having to 3D touch to see additional information with like a widget, just like the weather here. Maybe have a widget in the center of the screen that has more information. Things like that will make tons of difference. It doesn't have to be a drastic change because this system works and is simple to use. Also, add features like dark mode. A lot of people want dark mode. Now, the reason I want dark mode is not just for how it looks. It does look awesome. I would love to use dark mode on an iPhone, but it's not just because of the looks. The main reason for me wanting dark mode on an iPhone is because of the OLED display. The battery will increase so much if we have a dark mode feature built into the iPhone, because the pixels surrounding any other pixels that's lit, it's going to be turned off. That way the iPhone can preserve a lot of its battery life, and we can end up with maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 extra hours of on-screen time on iPhone. So I think that's a feature that Apple is definitely working on. They're just probably trying to polish it up and get it right. But once they deliver, as I mentioned before, since they already deliver for macOS, and once they deliver for iOS, this is going to be a great battery booster for iOS and for the iPhone, especially on OLED displays. And please, Apple, it's 2013, minor quirks that I want you to fix. This volume hood should not be on the center of the screen anymore. Please, it's time for you to remove this. So please, Apple, remove the volume hood. Allow picture within picture. On an iPhone XS Max, it's such a large display. You can have two things at once. Maybe you can be listening to a podcast while you're taking notes. Maybe a recipe while you're watching a video, taking notes for a recipe, things like that. This is a useful feature that Apple could add. So multitasking in a real level. Another thing that I wish Apple would change, and it's been bothering me for years in iOS, is for Apple to add the ability to dismiss a phone call from the home screen without having to decline the phone call or answer the phone call. So you have two options when you get a phone call. You either accept it or decline. Why can't we just dismiss the call, let it ring in the background, and continue using our devices? I believe it's time for Apple to deliver on this feature. It's just something that's just common sense. Now, don't get me wrong, iOS 12 has been a very good release. It's very stable, battery is good. Apple added some key features such as screen time to manage your digital health and also monitor children's digital health if you're a parent. Also features like battery health, which inform you of the battery capacity of your device, and if your battery needs replacement. So great features came with iOS 12, a lot of stability and improvement. We still have a few more releases for iOS 12 to improve upon it, and it's a great release. So it's definitely a step in the right direction to merge once iOS 12 goes into iOS 13. With all that being said, I'm sure Apple will surprise us with many new features and enhancements with iOS 13. Again, this software first beta could be anticipated anywhere from June 1st to June 15th, depending on when Apple decides to hold their WWDC, and I can't wait to see what Apple has to offer with the next release of iOS, the next major release, iOS 13. Leave a comment down below. What feature would you like to see on the next version of iOS 13 and why? I would like to know your thoughts in those comments down below. Of course, I'll have more videos on iOS 13 in the future as more leaks come about. I'll be sure to bring those to you guys. Thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.